Jane Elias, who grew up in Long Beach, looks at a picture of her father when he was about 9 years old, a few years before he and his family were taken to Auschwitz concentration camp during the Holocaust. The photo is part of a new exhibit on display now at the Holocaust and Tolerance Center of Nassau County called Portraits of Our Past. Through historical photographs, the exhibit tells the little-known story of the Jewish communities in Greece before and after the Holocaust.
I remember my dad being fairly open with me early on about his experiences, and I was very interested and curious. I'm as close as you can get to it without having gone through it with my father. And even the gap in experience between his and mine is so great. And seeing what his life was and his parents' lives were, and just looking at that as a counterpoint to what my privileged life was that he gave me here on Long Island is kind of mind-blowing. So I think just as it's sort of a reality check, like, look, it wasn't that long ago that our family, our grandparents, parents in some cases, were living in a very hard time in a place where unfortunately most of the Jewish population was destroyed.
The Israeli ambassador to Greece recently gave the keynote speech at the center for a program based on the theme of the exhibit, Greece and the Holocaust, Devastation, Resistance, and Renewal.
I think it's timely that this year they decided to devote the exhibit and the event itself to the Greek Jewry, because it's exactly 70 years since their demise. Only after the Holocaust did the countries of Europe agree to give us our own state. This awful tragedy, the Holocaust, preceded the establishment. So in the 20th century we saw both the worst tragedy in Jewish history and the redemption. And we are trying to remember both and live with both.
The exhibit is beautiful. The photos, the people are alive in the pictures. You look into their eyes. You look at what they're wearing, a beautiful, wonderful culture that unfortunately isn't what it used to be, but it's still there. And again, we have to keep talking about it and explaining it and sharing it and promoting it.
The exhibit as a whole tells the story of Greek Jewry, tells about their long continuous presence on the soil of Greece, the special customs, traditions that they preserved, beautiful photographs before World War II, and then the story of what actually happened during World War II. To me, some of the most dramatic pictures in this particular exhibit are the pictures that were taken on March 25th at the deportation of the Jews of Yanna. They're very moving because this German paratrooper zoomed in on the anguish of this community that were roused out of their beds and their sleep on a cold March morning and deported, most of them, 91%, not to return to Greece. I often said, what must have been going through his mind as he centered in on children, on women crying? What had they done? They did nothing except be Jewish, and that's what led to their deaths.
There was one photo on the far side of a wedding party. It's a very large family group photo, and in the placard and the caption it says that none of those people survived. And that really, I just got chills saying that out loud. Because it's such a large group from one family and on such a happy day, I think I found that to be really, really powerful.
It's an amazing exhibit. It's a very unique exhibit. A lot of people aren't aware of what happened in Greece during the Holocaust, or the fact that even Greece was involved in any way.
In Greece, the Jewish community suffered proportionally the highest losses of any country in Europe. And most people were unaware of this. I was not aware of that. Over 90% of the Greek Jews were killed during the Holocaust. And there's such a rich, wonderful history of Greek Jewish community. We don't want that lost. We want to honor those victims. We want to hear from the survivors, and we want to use the lessons of what happened there to help us live a better life today.
It has a very strong Long Island connection because many of the people in these photographs are either people still living on Long Island, survivors, or their families, their children, their grandchildren, and then sometimes their great-grandchildren.
The best we can do is pay attention to the stories that the survivors have told us and to keep retelling those stories to the generations that follow.
Memory is very much a part of Jewish tradition. If anything, our holidays are holidays of historical remembrance. It is incumbent upon us to remember what happened and to assure that it never happens again. For many, these photographs are the only physical sign that these Jews ever lived. If there's anything to be learned from the Holocaust, is it can happen again. And the only way to assure that it doesn't is to raise a generation that is sensitive to differences and diversity and do not look upon people who are different as being any different from themselves.
Portraits of our past will be on display here at the Holocaust Memorial and Tolerance Center through August 15th. In Glen Cove, Chris Collora reporting.